Hi everyone, welcome back. As usual, my name is Alina from Furley Bioextracts, and today we are going to be talking about hepatitis. So first of all, what is hepatitis? It is basically categorized as any kind of inflammation of your liver. We'll get into your liver in a minute. When we think of hepatitis, we typically think of the viral hepatitis like hepatitis A, hepatitis B, and hepatitis C. But what many also don't know is that hepatitis can also be associated with fatty liver disease. Now, I think nowadays a lot of people have heard of fatty liver disease before. I remember a couple of years back, there was definitely a push for a certain supplement to combat fatty liver disease. So we all know what the viral hepatitis A, B, and C are, but what is fatty liver? Just to give just a little bit of background. It's basically when the liver has too much fat. Basically, the liver does need fat, but a very small amount. And once it reaches above 5%, that's when it starts getting problematic for the liver. And among Malaysians, actually 25% of Malaysians have fatty liver. So it's not an uncommon disease. And the danger with fatty liver is that it causes inflammation in the liver. And when unmanaged, can, in very serious cases, lead to cirrhosis, which is when your healthy liver tissue is replaced by scar tissue. And basically, because your liver is made up of scar tissue, your liver cannot function as it should. So, first off, what does the liver do? Well, the liver, as we know, it's a very important organ in our body. It's the second largest organ, and it basically filters our body. What this means is that it removes bacteria and toxins from your body. It makes immune factors. It produces bile, which is essential for digestion. It makes proteins. It stores iron. It converts nutrients into energy, and it creates blood clotting agents. So basically, it's a very multifunctional organ. Super important. Okay, so why does it matter that we know about hepatitis? Because personally for myself, when we think of non-communicable diseases, I always think of the big ones, right? So heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure. But I realized this morning that I don't actually think about hepatitis very often. All right, so as I mentioned, the effects of hepatitis, regardless of whether it's been caused by virus or through fatty liver disease, if allowed to progress unmanaged, it can cause cirrhosis, as we mentioned before, which is late-stage scarring of the tissue in the liver. Which can also lead to liver failure, liver disease, liver cancer, which is the 8th most common cancer in Malaysia, and eventually death. It's actually hepatitis, or the complications associated with severe hepatitis, is actually the 7th leading cause of death, beating out HIV and AIDS. And many people call it a silent killer, but it is an asymptomatic disease, and symptoms usually only present when there is a lot of inflammation with the liver, and by then sometimes it can be a little bit too late. And a lot of people actually don't find out they have hepatitis, whether viral or fatty liver, until they go for a routine checkup, which includes blood work targeted looking at liver function. So definitely a silent killer. And why we want to focus on prevention instead of cure, because yes, there are cures, is because treatment is not just expensive for us, it's expensive for the country. So if you're in Malaysia, where we do have subsidized healthcare, it can be very expensive for the government to treat hepatitis. So prevention over cure. But first, let's look at the types of viral hepatitis and the common symptoms. So first, let's look at hepatitis A. And this virus, this is so-called milder because it only lasts a few weeks. It generally does not cause long-term damage like virus hepatitis B and hepatitis C. However, in rare cases, especially in people with pre-existing issues or comorbidities or issues with their liver, it can lead to complications of liver failure and death. But those are rare cases. And hepatitis A is transmitted through the ingestion of contaminated food or water, and symptoms include fatigue, loss of appetite, stomach pain, nausea, and jaundice. So 4 out of these 5 are very common symptoms. You could attribute them to a cold, to the flu, to a virus, but not necessarily to hepatitis A. However, jaundice is the giveaway where the whites of your eyes or your skin gets really yellow or yellower than normal. Then everyone knows, oh, there's a problem with your liver. Yeah, we'll go into prevention in a minute. So next, let's talk about hepatitis B and C, which are both very contagious, mostly through blood or semen, so bodily fluids. The severity of the disease can range from a few weeks to lifelong chronic disease, and basically the virus attacks the liver. So if you do contract hepatitis B, unfortunately, it is without a cure. There's no cure, and it's almost a lifelong disease which should be monitored regularly for signs of liver disease, as it does continually attack your liver. And it's transmitted through sexual contact, needle sharing, or from mother to baby at birth. Hepatitis C is the same. It's also bloodborne. The most transmission cases are through needle sharing, and it can be asymptomatic, and many people may be unaware that they actually have hepatitis C until they present with perhaps jaundice later on. So, what are some current treatments available for the viral hepatitis? So, hepatitis A and B, let's focus on prevention first. Hepatitis A and B do have vaccines. Especially if you travel a lot or you go to a place with raw foods, which is very popular for raw foods, it is strongly recommended that you double check you have the hepatitis A vaccine with you, since it is a foodborne virus. And there is no vaccine for hepatitis C, but with healthy fatty liver, the prevention is obviously, since there's too much fat in your liver, obviously it's going to be maintaining a healthy weight, having a good diet of fruits, vegetables, not too much refined carbohydrates, good protein and good fats, exercising regularly, limiting alcohol consumption, and if you do have any pre-existing conditions, taking your medicine as prescribed. Now, moving on to treatment. So, for hepatitis B, there is no treatment. Basically, there is no cure. The treatment is with antivirals, and depending on the severity of your disease, this can be long-term or even lifelong, because the whole purpose of the antivirals is to reduce the amount of virus in your body, and which will also help give your liver a chance to reduce the chances of developing serious liver disease or liver cancer. And you do, as I mentioned before, require regular checkups to check for liver damage and cancer. With hepatitis C, recent medical advancements has led to DAAs, or direct acting antivirals, which is a cure, and more than 95% of people were cured within 8 to 12 weeks. And it also reduces the likelihood of the person with hepatitis C developing cirrhosis, liver cancer, or death. And lastly, for liver disease, fatty liver, it's as usual. Avoid alcohol, lose weight, take your medication as prescribed, especially if you have other comorbidities, which will increase your chances of getting hepatitis or inflamed liver, including diabetes, high cholesterol, and high triglycerides or blood cholesterol. And if you can adopt a much healthier lifestyle, the good thing is that your liver is a very versatile organ, and it can actually repair itself given good body conditions, or bringing your body conditions back to the ideal or the norm. So in Malaysia, where can you get screened for hepatitis? That one is a bit obvious. It's either hospital or the clinic, and you get a full body checkout with a liver function test. As I mentioned before, hepatitis is a silent killer, and many people do not realize they have it until they are actually tested. And how do you reduce your risk of getting viral hepatitis, or hepatitis in general? Well, First of all, have protected sex if you are sexually active. Don't share needles. If you are a caregiver for someone who does have hepatitis, do definitely be careful with when you use needles on them, as there is something called needle stick injury, so you accidentally stab yourself with the needle that you just used on your patient or the person you're caring for. So you really don't want to accidentally infect yourself. And in the case of fatty liver, as I mentioned before, maintain a healthy weight and exercise regularly. So that is all for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Stay safe.